Welcome to Is It Covered, where we break down real stories and answer the big question, is it covered? Hosted by father and son duo Bruce and Brian Chapman of the J.D. Chapman Insurance Agency. This podcast will help you navigate the world of insurance with stories, tips, and answers that really matter. From personal to commercial coverage, we've got you covered. Now, let's get started.
All right, welcome back. Another episode of Is It Covered?
Is It Covered?
As always, I'm your host, Brian, here with my co-host, Bruce. And today, we're going to start to talk about commercial claims.
Yes.
Something that is a little different than what we've talked about before in the past, where it's been kind of more on the personal auto and home type side of things. So whether or not you are a commercial client or you own a business, I think there's a lot of good information here. Just like personal lines policies, commercial policies, claims are so different. They're so dependent on what happened. It's depending on how your policy is written. It's dependent on, the actual scenario itself. So, the famous "it depends" is really one to think about here.
Yes,
with
definitely.
These as well.
Yep.
So, commercial side. All right, let's get into it.
Okay.
We'll kind of set the scene for you here. So picture this. It's your 30th anniversary, let's say.
Yeah.
And you're all excited. You're going out to a restaurant that you haven't tried before. Everyone's dressed up, ready to go. You're having a great time. So you look at the menu and say, yeah, let's start with a salad. I think that's a good way to get the meal going. So you order a salad and you sit down and, you're kind of starting to pick through it. And all of a sudden you hear this crunch and you're like, man, that was a crispy crouton. What was that?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you maybe you feel some blood or some other stuff happening in your mouth. And you're like, that was not a crouton at all. And you spit it out. That was a screw.
With your tooth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that you're holding here.
Yeah.
So now your date, your 30th anniversary is off to a terrible, terrible start.
Yeah.
I think maybe this happened to you, not necessarily the anniversary thing, but you had a similar situation.
It actually did. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The old screw in the salad. So we're at a restaurant. I'm eating a salad, and something was pretty hard in that salad, and it wasn't a crouton. And as it turns out, it was a screw. And the restaurant was undergoing some renovations with the hood and duct system. And apparently the contractor must have dropped a screw into the salad mixings, and I was the lucky person who got that. Too bad it wasn't gold, right? But anyways, so I mentioned to management, hey, this occurred. I was thinking I was going to get all kinds of comp meals and like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, well, sorry that happened. You get a free salad. So, but that was okay. Fortunately, nothing happened. I was not injured. I didn't swallow it. But let's say that I did, let's say I chomped down and I ripped part of my tooth apart and I actually swallowed all that stuff and it did internal damage into my body. That is a giant claim, giant liability claim.
Absolutely, because now you're going to, as the person that swallowed the screw, start to accrue some medical bills, some dental bills. So I guess, how does that work? Where is we're going to start to get into some liability here on these commercial policies. So how does that work? What's the liability? Who's responsible?
So the first thing, as a patron, I need to notify the restaurant, hey, this occurred, and so at that point, I would need to go to the doctor to get it taken care of. Let's say it was really severe and I needed surgery and I was out of work for a while and there were all kinds of ramifications there. So I go ahead and have the surgery. I'm out and I would most likely probably go to an attorney at that point to say, this occurred to me. I would like my medical bills paid and, I would like some pain and suffering and that kind of thing covered as well. I'm out a lot of money because I missed work. The attorney would write a letter to the restaurant and the restaurant would notify their insurance company and their insurance company would provide an attorney for their defense. Anytime there's liability, the insurance company provides you with an attorney. And which a lot of people don't realize, but that's the case. And so the insurance company would do their investigation and they would determine that, hey, you know what? necessarily wasn't our restaurant's fault. I mean, it mostly was, but there was some contractor in here who dropped the screw in. We're going to go after them also. So then the attorney would, or the claim would bring both the contractor and the restaurateur into the to the mix.
Okay, so this is kind of a multifaceted claim in the terms that, you'll have the liability from the restaurant, but also if you're that contractor and maybe you don't have the right coverages in place for something like this to happen, or maybe you're uninsured completely.
Right.
It seems like this claim might span two different companies or two different aspects, right?
Absolutely. So the company defending the restaurant would look to see if the contractor had a contract with the restaurant that spelled out things like hold harmless agreements and things like that. And they would also want to see if the contractor provided the restaurant with a certificate of insurance that named the restaurant as an additional insured. And so getting into the weeds a little bit.
That's all right, yeah.
A certificate of insurance would be the restaurant is requesting that of the contractor to say, hey, I want to know that you have insurance. So by giving the certificate of insurance, it says to the restaurant, yep, I do in fact have insurance. Well, that might not be quite good enough. The restaurant could say, not only that, I would like you to name me as an additional insured on your policy. So that certificate would indicate that the restaurant is an additional insured on the contractor's policy.
So the additional insured essentially names the restaurant as on the insurance policy of the contractor? Is that how that works?
Well, yes, it would make the contractor's policy respond to claims that were the contractor's fault. So in this case, the screw dropped into the salad, so it's the contractor's fault. So then the restaurant's policy attorney would say, hey, you named us as an additional insured on your policy, you defend this claim. The bottom line on this, again, we're kind of getting into the weeds, is when you're having, especially as a business, when you're having someone do work for you, it's extremely important for the company, the contractor that's doing work for you, provide you with a certificate of insurance that names you as an additional insured, and even more so to have a contract with that contractor that spells out what everyone's rights and duties are.
Well, I think that's good to know because in today's society, there's a lot of contractors out there that'll do work for different restaurants or, commercial type work. And even as the contractor yourself, even if you're a one-man show or you've got a few employees, it's worth looking into getting some type of insurance for yourself because let's say this scenario happens. Restaurant doesn't ask you for, your certificate of insurance. You're not insured at all. And now all of a sudden, because you dropped a screw in someone's salad, could your livelihood be on the hook for this? I mean, how does that happen?
Well, if you're the restaurant, hopefully you have liability insurance.
Right.
So that's why you buy it, to protect your business. So you're not on the hook for that and go out of business. And then hopefully you've done the right things so that you can transfer that liability down to the contractor who's ultimately responsible for that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I know that some people might look at insurance as kind of like this extra expense and do I really even need to use it or so on and so forth. But in situations like this, would you say that it's probably a good idea to make sure that the coverages that you have are appropriate for whatever your operations are?
Oh, 100%. And keep in mind, if you hire a contractor, and there's a lot of contractors out there, one-man shows, my friend calls them Chuck in a truck, that they don't have any coverage. And if you have someone like that doing work for you with no coverage at all, and there's any kind of a claim that's as a result of the contractor's negligence, then you're on the hook for that. Or if the contractor damages your building somehow and there's no insurance, you can't get blood out of a stone.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's so important to make sure you're getting certificates of insurance and even more so to have them name you as an additional insured.
Absolutely. And since we're talking about more of a commercial policy here, Commercial policies typically have different facets to them, right? Typically, there's some type of a general liability policy that might cover things like a screw in your salad. That's not a crispy crouton.
Yes.
or a property component if you own the buildings and those types of things. So, I mean, commercial policies differ than personal lines policies because it's a more nuanced coverage. Is that correct?
Exactly. So a personal, like a homeowner's, homeowners is a homeowner's. You're going to get property and liability. But with commercial accounts, there's a lot of different facets there, as you mentioned. So things like tools and equipment and, it runs the gamut. That's why I think it's, I hate this. People do go online and they get their own auto and home. And I mean, you really want an expert to help you there. But commercially, I think you really, really need an expert to help you through that and to know what coverages are available and to help protect your business.
Absolutely. And more now we see requests for these certificate of insurances from contractors that do require a bunch of additional wording on them. And you know what? You're probably a really good contractor. You're great at doing what you do, but you're not necessarily versed in the insurance side of things. So it's good to have an agent or have like a sample cert to say, hey, look, these are the types of coverages that I need for this type of a job. And, I'd like to protect myself for the upcoming jobs that I might have or bid on.
Exactly. You need a partner.
Yeah, you need a partner. And I think that's exactly where, we like to step in. Now, we've
for sure
talked a lot about contractors and restaurants. And, is a contractor's policy the same as a restaurant's policy?
No, not necessarily. There's a lot of differences there. Yep,
absolutely.
Yep.
That makes complete sense.
Absolutely. Yep. So, we have had contractors who purchase a policy, they get a certificate of insurance, and then they cancel their policy, and suddenly they're kind of marking up these certificates and passing them off as they really have insurance. That's big time insurance fraud.
Yeah, that's huge.
You will get into a boatload of trouble if you're doing things like that.
So even though it might be a little bit more expensive, it pays to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
Up front.
It always pays to do the right thing.
Yeah, that's just kind of a life lesson, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I guess getting back to the claim here, would you say that there's a few different facets to this one?
Yep.
But is it covered?
It depends.
Man, we need a sign or
at
something.
least T-shirts that say it depends, right? So it depends. Again, always, do you have the coverage? It depends on how the screw got in there. But as a general rule, liability is going to cover that kind of a claim. It's going to cover bodily injury, and that would be bodily injury that you as a business owner have done to someone else. Not on purpose. So as a general rule, with the right coverages, I declare it's covered.
Oh, no, that's good to know. So, well, I hope everybody got some value out of this one. I hope the next time you're at a restaurant, you don't find any surprises in your salad.
No.
Other than actual croutons.
Right.
So we'll see you back for the next one.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Is It Covered podcast. To learn more about how JD Chapman can assist you with all your insurance needs, please visit our website at jdchapmaninc.com or call us at 315-986-4062. JD Chapman, we've got you covered. This podcast provides general information only. It does not offer or bind insurance coverage. Coverage cannot be changed or confirmed through this podcast, email, voicemail, or fax. Insurance only takes effect once confirmed by a licensed agent. For specific coverage details, please call us at 315-986-4062. All coverages are subject to the terms, conditions, and exclusions of the issued policy, which may vary by state. This podcast does not provide legal, tax, or financial advice. Please consult a professional for those needs. Links to other sites are provided for convenience. We don't control or endorse their content. Any claims scenarios discussed are hypothetical. Coverage decisions depend on the specifics of each case.